Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to the weekend. It is the Earthmaster here, Saturday, September 7th, 2024. It's about 11:55 a.m. California time here, where Southern California is rocking and rolling here a little bit. Let's go ahead and zoom in and see what's going on down here across Los Angeles. I got a little decent earthquake swarm here outside of Ontario. Looks like it is just off of potentially the northern edge here of the Elsinore Fault or the Central Avenue Fault. Of course, Los Angeles is littered with quite a bit of fault systems out here. It does not appear to be on the Puente Hills Thrust Fault, which is over here a little bit more, which is capable of producing that 7.5 and stirred up quite a bit of nerves here in the last few weeks with that 4.4 and a swarm of earthquakes. Let me pop this up and show you guys where that was at. That was over here across the towards the greater Los Angeles area. Today's activity, goodness, a little bit further to the east, but still an overall sign here of the pattern of strain that's coming into Southern California right now. So let's take a look and see what we do have underneath the area of Ontario, Chino area. Got 30 earthquakes here in a sequence of swarming with really, if you look at this here, 3.9 appears to be the largest magnitude. There was a 3.5. I guess this kind of stirred and started everything off here this morning about 10 o'clock or so. 3 miles below the surface for this earthquake activity, so it's relatively shallow. But as you can see here, we've seen a number of 2s and 1s, and then a 3.9 got thrown in the mix here, far as the largest so far in this sequence of earthquake activity. So this leads me to believe here that we could be seeing something further larger in this area following this swarm this morning. Now, again, I keep saying it on my daily updates here that it's not just one specific area here in California that's showing, you know, it'd be different if it was just one area, right? Here in Los Angeles, seen a whole bunch of swarming, but it's not. It's an overall broader pattern out here of intensifying earthquake activity here over the last several weeks. We've seen numerous regions with a 5.2 up here in Bakersfield. Ridgecrest area seen a whole bunch of swarming in itself here. Also that movement there on the Puente Hills Thrust Fault with the 4.4 and a bunch of other earthquakes in that mix as well. And if something that some of these have in relation here is the close proximity. Well, I would say all of these have a close proximity here to the San Andreas Fault, right? Even if you think about the activity around the Ridgecrest and the movement happening in Nevada recently with that big-time earthquake swarm here, where we've seen over 100 and something earthquakes in this area of Nevada, you put together the big picture out here, and that puts the San Andreas Fault here in the line of fire. And I think we need to watch that really closely here, folks. Obviously, there's many other fault systems out here that are capable of producing some large-scale earthquake activity, right? But it's the overall pattern here around this entire plate boundary that's got me a little concerned here. I think things are potentially could be looking at some larger-scale activity here soon. Could have something to do with all the rain we've got out here in the last couple years. There was a tropical system here. I think it was Tropical System Hillary. Was it last year or the year before? I can't remember. Either way, you know, there was a lot of rainfall that got dumped into this area. And then you throw on the winters and all the snow melt, the elevated inflows coming into the Salton Sea area. Yeah, that definitely could start to loosen things up, so to speak. So we'll continue to be on guard here in Southern California for some movement, but I think we definitely need to watch the San Andreas Fault. So this 3.9, let's check this out real quick here, see where it was felt. It looks like it was felt fairly broadly there, mainly Los Angeles, down to San Diego as well, and of course inland towards the area of the epicenter where the star is. And let's see here real quick, go back to this map. The activity has not stopped yet. It's still just pouring in terms of the multitudes of earthquakes here right now. And it's not like what it's not basically we didn't see a 4.5 here and then followed up by a bunch of little smaller quakes. That would be an aftershock sequence. This is just a swarm of earthquakes that could potentially lead to something bigger, not only in the area but also on a broader scale here, just because of all the elevated activity here recently. So that's one thing I've noticed here, aside from the movement up in Bakersfield where we've seen that 5.2 earthquake here. It hasn't been over 30 days. It has. So this is the area that's seen a 5.2 and then a bunch of other earthquakes following that. So there was a main quake, and then an aftershock sequence there. All these other areas here have just been throwing out various magnitudes of earthquakes, and the multitudes there continue to increase. Now, with this most recent swarm going on here in Southern California, the Puente Hills thrust fault again is over here. That's the Eagle Rock. It's going to be a little bit further south here, directly underneath Los Angeles area. That's the one that's got a few folks concerned there for 7.5, but you know, with all this elevated activity out here, goodness, we have to be on guard. There's a look at the 2.5 map and above. So far, 3.9, but notice offshore here we got a couple smaller earthquakes there as well from last night. 2.5, 2.9. Northern California did see a, looks like we've seen a 4.3 up here in the geysers area. There is no geysers up there, that's just what they call it up here, but this is a Clear Lake volcanic field, and obviously still very active below the surface, way down there underneath the surface area where the heating is observed. There's actually a whole process involved here where humans have found a way to create energy out here by injecting things below the surface there to create dry steam. There's all these hydrothermal plants out here, numerous ones, and that's where we've seen a 4.3 today. 1 minute later, a 3.9. But overall, this area has seen a little bit of uptick as well. Bay Area fairly quiet, but let's see. I wish I knew exactly which fault system that was on. There's obviously a couple other faults that run through here. There's mountain ranges, right? But this fault, this USGS map does not show all of the fault systems here. Nothing showing up here from the USGS in terms of forecast, you know, like what they think maybe something bigger is happening. But I don't even know if they know. I've been trying to get a hold of Dr. Lucy Jones here, and been asking her, the seismologist there, when the last big one was on the Puente Hills thrust fault, and I just, it's quiet. Nobody wants to speak of when it was. Obviously, we know the southern branch here of the San Andreas Fault has been over 300 years and is capable of producing an 8.1 along its entire southern branch here, and that's obviously, you know, a sign of concern right now with all the increasing movement around it. It's got to be doing something to it. I'm sure it's not releasing strain. That little theory is out the window, and in fact, Dr. Lucy Jones, there is a seismologist, mentioned that live on the news, that these little quakes do not push off the big one from happening. It does not release strain out here. This is an overall pattern here of definitely something bigger coming. You guys heard about the big fracture zones down here. I think it's somewhere down south here into the northwestern territory here in Mexico, where they had some large fissures open up down there. Just not eruptive fissures, but fissures there in the ground. And it's just an overall sign pattern here, folks, of the West Coast. You know, it might be our turn for some bigger earthquake activity. I'm going to bring this date down a little bit more because of all the earthquakes that are happening there in California. Looks like Hawaii is out here swarming as well. Let me look at this real quick, see if there's anything else specific besides these little quakes. These were last night. A couple earthquakes offshore. See, it's not just one area, it's a broader pattern. I keep saying that because I'm looking at the map trying to figure out maybe if there's one specific fault system that is under a lot of strain out here in terms of these little ones off of the plate boundary, but I don't think it is. I mean, obviously there is because we're seeing earthquake activity, but I think our main potential here is going to be the San Andreas Fault. I don't know, maybe the Garlock Fault shear zone as well. That area is a piece of the plate tectonics out here of the North American plate that interchanges here with the Pacific plate. Actually, it keeps going here, it looks like a little bit, but notice this land shift. This land is moving to the northwest, right? This is the Pacific plate, and the North American plate here on the right side, or the east side here of this line, the San Andreas Fault, is moving generally towards the southeast here. So we got these two plates, you know, building up a lot of strain here, folks, and I think it's just a good day. Well, any day is a good day to be prepared out here, but with this elevated increasing earthquake activity event that we've seen here, I think even more so. So we'll continue to watch that. Right now, 32 earthquakes and a swarm of activity with really no main forequake, or main earthquake, right? If you want to call it 3.5 the main quake, so be it, but there was a larger event in the mix as well with a 3.9. So this, you know, it tells me we could either see larger scale activity here, we could see it maybe pop up here around the Puente Hills, maybe something bigger up here across the Garlock Fault shear zone, or it could be the worst case scenario, the San Andreas Fault. Right, further out and about here through Washington, a couple earthquakes around Mount St. Helens. Overall, folks, you know, I think it's obvious where we need to look for some further movement right now, and that's Southern California. New Zealand, I was watching this last night, yesterday. Well, hold on a second here. Okay, so we're way past the 24-hour threshold. Let's bring this down just a little bit. Notice these quakes all lined up here, kind of skipping New Zealand, right? North, south, east, and west of New Zealand. Put New Zealand right on the X marks the spot for larger scale activity, but it didn't happen. So I'm going to bring, when was that, 4.5? That was yesterday at 12. Okay, so just about an hour, or 24 hours. So this here is the last 24 hours on the map. The reason why I have to adjust this on occasion is because of the multitude of quakes that are coming in when we get swarms going on here in California, Hawaii, or anywhere on the globe. It does something here to the date, where the date will stay the same, but the multitude of earthquakes here will actually pull from the daily rates that are going on here on the globe. So it's just a little glitch there that takes place. So everything looks good now. Yeah, nothing going on across New Zealand. This has actually gone super quiet, with adjustment returning across the eastern areas of the Pacific plate in a big fashion. 5.4, that's going to be, looks like early this morning here we've seen that. 1 o'clock. That activity normally triggers higher strain up here, and it almost looks like it happened immediately. About an hour or so later, 4.6 in the deeper regions here of the Peru Chile Trench stirred up. Let's go check out Hawaii. I don't see anything of abnormal activity. Yeah, a little bit of swarming going on here, but this has been consistent, and there hasn't been any type of migration pattern out here in terms of the magma, for one, and also the earthquake activity out here. It's been generally up across the upper and middle east rift zone, and that's where the majority of our magma intrusion event has taken place here. 2.9 up around the crater area. Let me double check that real quick here. See what we got. Make sure I got the most recent data. I was waiting for a little bit to see if we were going to get something bigger down there in Los Angeles. Seen that 3.5 pop off there a couple hours ago, and then it started swarming. I was like, oh man, I better wait just a little bit. Now we got 3.9, and then I'm thinking, oh goodness, I better get in there before something bigger happens. A little bit of deflationary tilt there across this area. Let's check out the overall deformation across the area of the summit region up here. Are we working? There we go. Not a whole lot has changed here since last night, and the overall pattern here in the last week, maybe last 2 weeks here, has just been stationary. Unlike any other time where we've seen the inflation chart rise and rise and rise gradually up to a magma intrusion event. Magma gets displaced, and then it rises again there across the summit area, and now we're just stationary. So it's a little bit interesting, a little bit odd compared to the past few months here of what's been going on there across Kilauea Volcano. Over here across the, this is another area, right? Goodness, it's just quite active today. Across the northwestern edge here of the Filipino plate, a bunch of earthquake activity ramping up here in the 5 range. You can see that on the globe as well. Some deeper movement quakes here, just shy of the subduction zone that sits up here. There's a couple different subduction zones over here, east-west. But this one, 108 miles deep for this quake, 4.7, well underneath the Volcano Islands area of Japan. That in itself right there puts this region in the hot spot as well. I think something big's coming, whether it's going to be the eastern portion of the country or eastern plate or maybe a mega quake out here. We are toe-to-toe right out here with just, I mean, we're not getting a bunch of 5s out here, but the elevated activity in California is, what do we got there now in Bakersfield? See, 2.0 right now coming in within the last 5 minutes here. That's why I'm saying it's not just one specific area. It's a broader areas here with new regions now getting hit. So, you know, the San Andreas Fault can only hold on for so long here. So we'll definitely watch California today. We have been for a little bit. And watch this area of the subduction zone here across Japan. This is that subduction zone that the Japanese government here put out a warning for a mega quake a couple weeks back here when they had that. What was it? Well, has it been over a month? Goodness, time is just flying by. That's what happens when you start fall semester and rack your brain a little bit and try to stay outside of the heat. Time's flying by. But yeah, there was a little bit bigger earthquake activity out here over a month ago, and that basically made the Japanese government here put out a mega quake warning for this subduction zone that's capable of producing an upper 8 magnitude earthquake. And we got more activity on it now. Well, close to it. This is a deeper quake, but I'm sure that's adding some strain out there across the region. All right. Quick glance here at space weather activity. Did see a little bit of sea flare movement, looks like, here from the area south here on the sun, the visible disk. Actually, I was an M flare, M1.6, long duration M flare, very low grade, but it was a long duration event right here. And hard to see if this thing produced any CME or not. Looks like there was a CME produced, not Earth directed. Notice down here on the southern end, there's a CME that was observed on that LASCO image. It appears that the CME is heading mostly south of the Sun-Earth line. So yeah, there's another far side. Well, that was a couple days ago. They've just been having all sorts of far side events there, and we got a number of sunspots on the far side that will be coming around the bend here. In under a week, we'll keep our eyes open here across the eastern limb. I think things are going to really kick up here in terms of space weather activity once those regions get back around here. For now, here's that area that's throwing off some low-grade M flare activity, but that's about it. All other regions out here are fairly quiet and minimal. And seismograph stations here. Oh, that's what I'm missing. Oh, I'm missing my Bakersfield station. That is what's up. So it's going to be down right here. Kern River. Oak Flat. Where is it? There it is. Cal State Bakersfield. There we go. Now, yeah, I knew I was missing one. See, there's still a little bit of earthquake activity happening there. 910. That's got to be that one that just kicked up there, that 2-pointer. Oh, no, definitely not. That's at 12:05. So That's interesting. 12:05. 10 minutes ago. I'm not seeing a 12:05 on here. 12:05 would put it right about here, this one. So if this is a 2-pointer right here, this little spike, then that makes this one a little bit bigger. So it does look like they're having a little bit more earthquake activity than what's being posted there on the map. So, all right, folks, I'm going to jump off here and definitely keep an eye on this today. I don't need to have so many Cal State Bakersfield stations up, but we'll keep it as that for now. And just be on guard here. You know, you can't, one may be able to just look at an area, like a single area, and rule out the overall big picture here, but it's not. The overall big picture here is the San Andreas Fault, the southern branch here, that's probably under a lot more strain and stress, and obviously due to the elevated earthquake activity here recently than it's been in quite a long time. You got a lot of rainfall here that we've seen in Southern California over the last couple years, so all of this might just be a domino effect for the 8-pointer that's predicted to happen out here along the San Andreas Fault. That's a fact. That's not fear-mongering. It's good to be on guard when we see various areas out here showing some intensifying earthquake activity and swarms around a major plate boundary that's overdue for a big earthquake, right? When I was a kid, I remember hearing about this area. Southern California is going to have a big one and fall off in the ocean. Well, literally, it can't fall into the ocean. There's areas that can sink in terms of liquefaction here. But that's you know, another story here. Definitely not a good story, that's for sure. But yeah, either way, an 8-pointer out here or a 7.5 on the Puente Hills Thrust Fault is a bad deal. I'll be off here on the side, folks, kind of keeping an eye on things. If you got any questions or anything, you can always reach out to me. I always try to respond to people. I know Dr. Lucy Jones is super quiet, for one, when it comes to me trying to get a hold of her, but also busy, right? And it's a weekend, so I'm sure she's got family and things that she's doing down there in the heat of Southern California. But yeah, if you have any questions, give me an email, earthmastermail@gmail.com, and I'll try to get to them. Sometimes they get buried underneath a lot of the spam and stuff that comes in, but I'll try to get to them. If you don't get a hold of me the first time, try to send a second message out, and I'll get to you. But yeah, stay on guard, folks. We'll catch you guys out here a little bit later on.